Welcome back to the podcast. So today I'm so excited. We have Carol Schultz with us. She is the CEO of Vertical Elevation and Inc. magazine columnist. She is an outspoken entrepreneur who helps CEOs stop running their companies and start leading them. She draws on decades of experience as a recruiter and executive coach to deliver the Chief of Staff Scaffold system, a 9-step program that teaches founders to restructure their time, delegate effectively, and refocus on growth. Known for her no BS honesty and willingness to ruffle feathers, Carol combines bold truth-telling with lessons learned from her own early leadership missteps.
Welcome to your Profitable Law Firm podcast. I'm Kelley Brubaker, your dedicated host, passionate about empowering law firm owners. Let's dive into the hidden strategies that lead to overflowing profits, scaled growth, and thriving lives. This is where overwhelm transforms into confidence, enabling you to create and enjoy your dream firm and your dream life.
So, Carol, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here today.
Kelley, I'm happy to be with you. Thanks.
So we have a couple different things we're going to talk about today.
Yep.
And the one we're going to talk about is reclaiming your time as CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And I know our audience is all law firm owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I know even as an accounting firm owner, as a CPA, I've struggled with that shift from doer to leader. And then we're also going to talk about founder syndrome. So I'm pretty excited to dive into these topics today. And so so let me just start off with, many law firm owners tell me that they feel like they're buried in their emails, they're in meetings, and they're like staff questions all day long, right?
Yeah.
So from your work with CEOs, how can an owner tell the difference between just being busy and then actually leading their firm?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Ultimately, if you are spending time in meetings, I mean, I don't think it's going to be news for anyone listening to this, is that we waste a massive amount of time in meetings, at least 30%. I mean, lots of people. You don't have to be a CEO to be in that position. And ultimately, what you want to look at is, what percentage of my time am I spending managing my people, looking at my emails, going to meetings, being in client calls where I really don't need to be there. Those types of things, right? Managing drama, right?
Yeah.
What percentage of my time? I had a founder that I was working with tell me, I'm working between 80 and 100 hours a week, and 50% of that is being spent on managing people.
Right. It's
like,
too much.
Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole week just right there.
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
And I know I get stuck. So I use Calendly to manage my scheduling, because I would get frustrated with the whole back and forth and between the emails and the phone calls and the texts. When can we meet? Is that good? Does that work? So Calendly was a blessing to me, but way too open. And then I got to a point that I'm like, why am I getting nothing done? Well, it's because I left my calendar open.
That's exactly right.
Nonstop. And so people book me, they're just popping in when they see the first available time that works for them, which is great. But then I have no time to get anything done. And so so I hit a frustration point myself where I'm like, I just can't keep doing this. I can't do, and then even in my firm, I had to set up a managed inbox so that everybody on my team can see messages from clients, because I can't spending more time reading an email. And I'm like, I don't know. I have to ask my team, forward to them. They have to read it.
Yeah. No, really, that's really ineffective. That's where a good executive assistant comes into play, is somebody who can actually triage your email, and you're going to teach them how to triage your email. I also had a client tell me this recently, is I got to figure out some technological way to have my inbox managed. I said, okay, just stop right there. You're going to build a technology to do this. Here's an idea: hire a VA that can serve if that's all you need out of that person. You can hire a VA and train them, how to go through your email every day. It won't take very long. And those 100+ emails every day you get, they can spend an hour or two a day, and that's it. And then triage the stuff that you need to know to the top of your inbox.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree. I mean, there are solutions out there that will help you, but you have to teach that.
Yes.
So you spend just as much time teaching some type of an AI solution
Hmm.
to be able to do it. And it's not going to do it in it's not going to do it any better or
Yeah.
faster than
And,
just
and
being
let me
able
also
to.
say, Kelly, that being consumed by your business, right? We always say we free hostages. CEOs who've become literally consumed by their businesses, right? They're drowning in 6 inches of water.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is not really mutually exclusive from founder syndrome, I might add,
Right.
because too many CEOs or CEO founders, especially CEO founders,
Yeah.
find themselves, I have to be everywhere. I have to be available. No, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You put structures in place to free yourself from that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a little crazy. And I
Mhm.
suffered. I mean, I did it to myself too. It was
Yeah.
always I'm doing it the best possible
Yeah.
way. Nobody could do it better.
That's right.
And I had the worst thing. So when I started my firm, I actually had originally named it after my name. And
Mhm.
so the
Yeah.
worst thing possible, which a lot
I
of
would
law,
agree.
well, like by the state bar requirements, they have to have
Hmm.
their name, their title. But
Hmm.
worst thing is that it confirmed to me because clients would come in and say, well, I will only talk to Kelley. I don't care who
Hmm.
else, but Kelley's in charge. And I mean, and that just fed into I
Yeah.
have to do it. And
Yeah.
it finally got to a point I'm like, guys, seriously, I don't need to call somebody back to confirm
Hmm.
it's done. Or
Hmm.
I really don't. That's why I have a team. So
That's
yeah.
right. And what was the impact on your business, Kelly,
Oh, exactly.
operating it
Financial
like that?
bad. Oh, it was horrible. It
Yeah.
was dreadful. I got nothing done,
Hmm.
not profitable. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just then I'm sitting there like, why do I even have staff if I'm doing the stuff?
That's right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So so in a professional services firm
Hmm.
like a law firm, what should a managing partner or a law firm owner's calendar look like if they're truly operating as a CEO?
The truly operating as CEO, approximately, I mean, depending on the amount of hours, let's just call it an 8-hour day. Although I don't know how many managing partners are only working an 8-hour day. They may be working a
Right.
10 or 12-hour day, depending on what's going on. But what I will say is that approximately, okay, and this can ebb and flow depending on what's going on, but approximately 50% of your time should be spent in strategy blocks where you are the lead visionary of the company. You're figuring out what needs to go. You're of course you know what's going on in your firm, but now based on that, you can sit down and strategize. Okay, here's where I want to get. Let me work backwards, step by step. Okay, so an hour goes by, you're not finished with that. You go off and do whatever else you're doing. Your next hour strategy block comes up whenever, and you sit back down and pick that back up.
Right.
Yeah.
And I try to do something similar, where I don't spend 50% of my time, but because I just don't have the available time yet. But I do. I try to tell people you'll never get if you don't sit down and take the time to figure out where you're going, you're never gonna
Hmm.
get there. Like you're just kind of lost. So
Right. Well, and
I just explain, go ahead.
no, finish. Go ahead.
I try to explain my role as a fractional CFO is I'm your
Mhm.
GPS. Tell me where you want to go, and
Right.
I'll get you there. I'll tell you the
Mhm.
directions. You've got to do the work, but I'm going to tell you what there's construction ahead. There's a detour coming up. Or
Mhm.
I'll try to identify those things for you. But if you don't ever take the time to figure out where you want to go, you'll never get there. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that you mentioned about being a hostage of your own company because I've so much felt that way
Mhm.
over points in my 20 years of owning a business.
Mhm.
So how does that show up specifically in law firms as they grow? So a lot of firms will start off as solo, it's just them and nobody
Mhm.
else. And then they'll slowly start to add their staff. And then
Mhm.
sometimes they get these roadblocks.
Right.
And I see it a lot. The more law firms I work with, I see there's definitely different revenue levels that we get stuck. But
Mhm.
what would a law firm owner, how would that show up being a hostage of your own company?
One of the most important things, and this goes back to way earlier in my career because I spent now 33 years working in the SMB space, primarily with startups and small companies, right? So the biggest problem that these founders or managing partners, as the case may be in the law, with a law firm is that when do I add more people? What is the next person I need to add? How does that look? And so on and so forth. And that is hugely challenging, right? So what I suggest, because I've spent almost 30 years as a professional headhunter full time. I still do that as part of my fractional chief of staff work because I have to backfill myself when I exit out after 3 to 6 months. So I still do the some search work, but ultimately that was one of the biggest questions. And it's something I still help my clients with, right? You need to scale. Okay. So let's talk about where you are currently. What do you think the next hire needs to be and why? I have to be convinced of that. Right? Because another thing I will say, fractional work is growing hugely, and there's a number of reasons for that. So another law firm I mentioned to you before we started recording that I do business with, $5 million firm, and they're a major advocate of hiring fractionals because smaller firms don't need full-time people right away.
Absolutely.
So
Agreed.
the smartest thing to do, so this allows you to get an expert for, I'm not going to say on the cheap because I am certainly not cheap. I'm sure you're not cheap. But it allows you to get an expert for less than hiring me full-time would cost them considerably more. Okay?
Absolutely.
And I can get them to where they need to be to determine, right? Are you ready, in the case of your business, are you ready now to hire a full-time CFO or do you stay on fractionally? And what does that look like?
Right.
So let's say you have, I'm just going to $100,000 to spend. All right. Just going to use easy math here. Well, you can hire one person for $100,000 in whatever the role that might be in a small firm, or you may be able to hire 3 people that are fractional.
Right.
For that money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the expertise is just invaluable, priceless.
Exactly.
I mean, I spoke at a conference in September and I introduced myself as a fractional CFO. And usually the question I get is, what is a CFO? And this time I actually got the question, what's fractional mean? And I'm like, well,
wow. Yeah.
Fractional part-time, not, somebody that's there to support you, but they're just not there 40 hours a week. I mean, it's, but you're getting that expertise. So, and I'm like, no, great question. Because if you don't know, but there's so many fractionals out there at the C level, C-suite, that it's amazing how much further you can take a firm when you have all that, that
absolutely
was with you. So a question that I get a lot from clients, and I struggle to help because operations is not necessarily my strong point. I'm all about the numbers. And although being, a CFO, I talk about all the numbers, which includes staffing and what we can afford. And is my marketing working? I can't really tell you. I can tell if your revenue's going up, it's working, but I can't tell you the mechanics behind the marketing. But a lot of times I'll have people that will confess, hey, I really want to plan a vacation, but I just don't feel that I can step away without everything falling apart. Right. I mean, I'm sure
I have a company health survey, which we'll talk about at the end.
Really?
And it asks that question exactly. If you were to step away, how would you feel? Oh, I'm in a panic. My firm's going to fall apart, or I'm confident it's gonna be okay. Yeah. I mean, very interesting that you say that.
So what do you advise firms, when a business owner says to you, I can't walk away. I can't take a day off. I can't take a week off.
Then they don't have the support they need, period.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to make it any more simple than that, but that's what that tells me.
Yeah.
Is if they can't take a day off or go on a vacation with their family, which is not uncommon. I hear this a lot. My family is literally the last thing on my list. It's at the bottom of the food chain. Great. How's that working for you?
Right.
How's the relationship with your wife? How's the relationship with your children? You ever go to their sports or activities or, take them to violin lessons or whatever that might be? No. Right. So I will often start talking about the impact on their lives. And one of my great coaches said to me, Carol, you don't have business problems. You have personal problems that show up in your business.
Ooh.
So who we are running a business you cannot separate those two things. So it shows up in your business. You have to start working on those things. And If you can't take that time off, you have got to get the support you need. And that's, again, where fractional help will help you. I mean, that's where I would, say, well, you need a fractional chief of staff.
Yeah.
I'll come
And
in,
we'll
I'll be
talk
your body double. I'm your proxy.
Yeah, and we'll definitely come back to that.
Yeah, I know we will.
My go-to when somebody says this to me, I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily head to in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you don't have the right staff or they don't
Mhm.
are empowered to make decisions.
Yes.
So my go-to is usually, do you have SOPs in place? Do you have things written down that
Mhm.
it's a whole decision tree of, if this happens, what do I do? Or what are my, what
Mhm.
I, as the firm owner, accept as possible responses.
Right.
Because I've worked with some firms that,
Mhm.
the owner literally signs every check that goes out the door. Now, I'm not one to circumvent controls. I don't want to see money going out embezzled or, fraudulent or any of that.
Sure.
But seriously, you have to a $10 check or, like the check for like a lot of the court filings will be like $1 just to, like, if you're recording a deed or something.
Mhm.
So for recording, recording fee of $1. And I'm like, you're literally like taking time away as as a
Mhm.
long term owner,
Yeah.
CEO, and you're going to take the time to sign a check. I
Mhm.
mean, at some point,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, SOPs are important. That is not in my wheelhouse.
yeah,
I don't do
yeah,
that for anybody because it's not an expertise of mine, and I'm not going to try
right,
to, blow sunshine up anyone's skirt. But certainly bringing
absolutely,
somebody put those things in place for you.
yeah,
If I get through my gap analysis and realize they don't have anything in place, well, I'm going to bring somebody in who can help them with that.
yeah. No, I agree. And that's where a lot of times, like I said, somebody will ask me, how do I even know if my marketing's working? And I'm like, well, I can tell you if your revenue's gone up and we can talk about some of your KPIs and, your
Mhm.
key metrics. But when it comes to very specific, campaigns, I don't know. That's not my thing, but I can connect you with the,
Exactly.
people that can bring, and that
Yes.
can come in and help you. So, and same thing with operations. And
Mhm.
I know in general how things should work, but no, I agree with the
I keep a stable
networking.
of really, really smart people that I can recommend to clients.
Absolutely. I do the same thing.
Mhm.
So we started talking at the beginning, we mentioned a couple different topics, and we wanted to talk about founder syndrome,
Mhm.
which may sound a little abstract to some of our listeners.
Mhm.
So can we define that in practical terms? And then why is it such a common blind spot for successful law firm owners?
Well, it's not a blind spot. Well, if they've heard of founder syndrome, it's not a blind spot. They're just refusing to move on it.
Great.
Um, but ultimately, I mean, the simplest way to describe founder syndrome is a founder who really thinks he or she is the only visionary. Nobody can take my place ever. So
Okay.
consequently, they become really paralyzed and they cannot grow their company because it's the same thing when you have a small startup or when you talk about a managing partner thinking I've got to start scaling my company, right? You may get to 20 people and the next growth to 50 people, it's going to start to change and you may or may not be the person to lead that company as it grows, right? The example I perpetually use is Mark Zuckerberg, that if he did not own 51% of Meta, I guarantee you he'd be thrown out by now.
Oh my
I'm
God.
pretty sure about that, okay? And that's a guy who I'm sure has founder syndrome
Yeah.
because he handpicks the board that won't throw him out,
Right.
right? So if you truly and listen, the founder has that visionary, whatever the founder is, managing partner, whoever founded the firm, that is the visionary. But that does not mean that no one else can have your vision.
Right. I agree.
So
I mean, yeah, the
yeah,
best staff is when they all buy into the same vision and
exactly.
support moving the firm forward. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you had already mentioned this, and I wanted to dive into this.
Yeah,
So created the chief of staff scaffold system.
right.
And I have to admit, as soon as I read chief of staff, I immediately thought of the White House and that, because it's just right.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, this is something. You're right, because when you look at C-suites, there's,
Mhm.
CEO and then CFO, and you've got a marketing person, an operations person, and a
COO,
CFO
yeah. Mhm.
person, right?
Mhm.
but I'm like, oh my God, chief of staff. And, and this would be something that transcends HR. Like if you even had an HR department, which a lot of small law firms don't, but, so I love this idea. Okay. Um, and so, why is chief of staff a missing role in just any business? I mean, I know our listeners are primarily law firms,
Mhm.
but any business.
Yeah.
Like it's seriously like when I read it, I was just like, oh my God, I feel like that's the missing piece of
Yeah.
the puzzle.
Yeah, and it is. And those who tend to think of chief of staff think of large companies. So I don't remember the exact numbers on this, but when Jeff Weiner came in and replaced, might have been the founder at LinkedIn at that time. I don't know if it was Reid Hoffman or who the CEO was at that time.
I don't
But they brought
remember.
Jeff Weiner in to be the CEO of LinkedIn. He implemented for the entire executive team, and I believe for himself, a chief of staff system. So each executive team member had their own chief of staff. Now, LinkedIn was big enough to have a chief of staff for everybody at the C-suite, right? Smaller companies are going to only need it for the CEO. And I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but the amount that LinkedIn grew by doing that was significant in revenues.
But I can imagine. I mean,
But smaller companies tend not to think about it. And this is where I'm on a mission, because smaller companies are at much greater risk of going out of business than LinkedIn or any other mammoth company.
right.
They make a bad hire, they make a bad decision. Yeah, it's going to cost them money, but it's not mission critical.
Right.
Okay. A small company, they make that kind of mistake, they could literally go out of business, or their funding could stop, or any number of other things.
Absolutely.
So
No, absolutely.
yeah. So as CEOs start to realize that person is their proxy, and it's not about the law firm owner I mentioned said to me, well, aren't my people going to think that I'm just trying to pass off my work to somebody else and that I don't want to talk to my people? I said, no, you're only going to go to meetings that you need to be in.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's it. If there's a go, no go decision, then you can come to the meeting with me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm running those meetings for the CEO or the managing partner, or whatever that might look like.
Right. Yeah. So can you give us, like the high level 30,000 feet, overview of your chief of staff scaffold system?
Yeah, it's a 9-step process, as you mentioned. It goes in 3 phases. It lasts about 12 weeks, about 3 months. Depending on the size of the company, could go a little bit longer. And it really ultimately starts out with me looking at doing, you could call it discovery or a gap analysis, where I'm assessing key areas. So I'm interviewing all the members of the executive committee. If there's a board, I'm interviewing the board. I will also go in and interview some of your individual contributors or other leaders, should you choose to have me do that. And from there, I can build you a roadmap or an organizational plan to move forward from there. Typically, the first thing we start with, because this is what I find to be the most common issue in companies, is communication or lack thereof. Right.
Right.
So we fix the communication first, teaching people how to communicate effectively, what works best for them, so on and so forth. I will build them for all their new hires, and even their current hires, build them brand new position descriptions. Right. So I run kickoff meetings like I would if I were in a retained search back in the day. And now, out of those position descriptions, I can also build a competency model, which allows you to do 2 things. One, use that for hiring, because now we know what the actual competencies are that we need in a job, and they're rated in importance, low, medium, and high. And the competency model also allows us to go in and do performance reviews based on those, because we know it's not, you can't just surprise people with that. One of the biggest problems with companies, we've all read about it in the news, people saying they got laid off. Well, all my performance reviews are so good. Why am I being laid off? Because nobody's using competency models. People don't actually know the specific measurable results that they're going to be accountable for. Right.
Yeah.
So we put in protocols for improvement loops. We implement leadership accountability, and train teams to be independent. Right. The CEO has got to let go. Each of the members of the executive team have also got to learn to let go and let their teams go out. If you have made the right hires people will not learn if they do not make mistakes.
Right.
Okay. You have to let them do that. Maybe they'll make some mistakes. Maybe they won't. And we start to look at these things. And the more we do that, the more executive buy-in we get. Right. So at the end of this 12-ish weeks, I sit back down with the CEO and say, okay, are you ready? You're now freed from the clutter. Are you ready to have me backfill myself with another fractional? Do you want to keep me around for 3 more months? Do you want somebody full-time? We kind of talk about what that next step looks like after we put all these things in place. Because what's important about the Scaffold system is it covers about 75 to 80% of what they need. The other 20 to 25% is living in a blind spot. I don't know what they need. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So by being in the job, I can now discover, oh, we never realized that the CEO needed that. And I saw that in the day when I was actually placing chiefs of staff.
Yeah.
Where I thought, boy, it sure would have been nice to, it never even dawned on me because it was living in my blind spot before this, what it would have looked like to just start with a fractional person.
Right.
Yeah. You make a much better hire after that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, yeah, my big thing is you don't know what you don't know. I say that very often.
The blind spot.
There's a lot I don't know. Yes, absolutely. So let's give some incentive. So the law firm owners that worry that delegation is either going to reduce quality of the work or create some type of a risk, what usually happens when delegation is done correctly? Like let's paint definitely not a rosy picture, but realistically, what are the benefits of delegating correctly?
Delegating correctly means you have that the person you're delegating to is crystal clear on what their job responsibilities are. And again, you have to think it in terms of specific measurable outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have hired the right people and they know what their job responsibilities are, not just some fluffy, well, you should do that and do that, but no, very specific, then you should feel free to give it to them. If you don't, you are a micromanager.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole separate issue of coaching that I do with the client at that point, where we really sit down and look at, because somebody doesn't just become a control freak like 2 years ago. This is something that's been building for many, many years. So we have to really peel back that onion and figure out, where did this come from? And again, what's the impact on you and your business to do it this way?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, yeah, I see it. I mean, I just know what I've lived through, which actually kind of leads me into my next question. So I know that you're very open about mistakes that you made earlier in your leadership journey. And I love that, because I'm pretty open about my battle scars too. So what lessons from that period most shaped how you now advise business leaders about control and trust?
Yeah, I was a complete control freak, because when I was moved into my first leadership position somewhere in the 90s, and this is also not uncommon, especially because I was in tech recruiting, I should say, placing within the technology sector, not placing technical people. But I was like a star individual contributor. And this is not uncommon. I could tell you a million stories of people I know that had this happen. Oh, star individual contributor gets moved into a first line management role and completely falls on their ass.
Yeah.
Because they have no leadership training. Or skills of leadership, for that matter. Same thing happened to me. My firm, I was a star. They moved me up and I sucked so badly. I pissed people off right and left that worked for me. People hated working for me. And, I would get, of course, now knowing what I know now, I would have a very different conversation. So this really prevents so much pain for people. You cannot, and I just had a friend of mine just tell me this over the weekend. She got moved into this new role, has taken on these new responsibilities, and nobody has given her any training.
Oh, no.
Again, not uncommon. So consequently, for me, this started to change for me, and it doesn't happen overnight, Kelley. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Right.
was when I started my coaching training in 1998. It was then that as I started to work on this first year, the second year, third year, and on, that the more I learned, the more I understood, the more work I did, the more I realized, oh, this is how it needs to be done.
Right.
Right. And I became much less of a, I mean, I'm not hardly a control freak at all. And in fact, I really don't think I am at all. I give everything to my chief of staff and she worries about everything. Because I have my own chief of staff, of course. Wouldn't I be a hypocrite if I didn't? But yeah.
Yes. No, and I had a similar experience. Same thing. All-star. I my career at a big 4 CPA firm.
Mm-hmm.
All-star, as staff, but nobody ever mentored me. And yeah, I went to manager training, but I could remember as a manager, I had an admin assigned to me. And maybe like 4 weeks into being a manager, my admin comes in and she's like, she sits down, she goes in my office and she's like, oh, I drafted your bills for you. And I'm like, oh, my bills for what? She's like, to bill your clients. Oh, yeah, the firm needs to make revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I said, that was a good thing. And she goes, yeah. And I said, what else do I need to know?
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. Well, and I blame the companies and the costs, lost revenue involved in not giving your people training on how to be good leaders.
Yeah.
It's just, the ROI is really exponential to what it's going to cost you to get them trained by the right people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Training and coaching.
so often. Yeah. I mean, just in firms, even at the paralegal level, let them have training, train them, let them have, give them some rope to let them make some decisions.
Exactly.
It's amazing because they know a lot more than
people will rise to more often than not.
Yes.
If you have made the right hires, people will rise to the occasion because I firmly believe people want to do good work.
Agreed. Yeah.
They really do.
I agree.
And if they don't, you've made a bad hire.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree.
Yeah.
So for a law firm owner that's listening who feels pretty stretched thin right now, so what's the single most impactful change they could make in the next 90 days to reclaim time and then step forward into a true CEO role?
Well, I go back to start scheduling strategy blocks for yourself where nobody bothers you. That's the best advice I can give. And if you feel like, start simple. Start with 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
Go to 2 hours a day. Go to 3 hours a day. And look at where you are. If you need to be spending 3 to 4 hours a day on strategy and you get to that point and you're like, oh shit, I'm not getting anything done. I'm getting that done, but I have all these other fires to put out. That tells me you need some help.
Yeah. No, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. And I tried like block scheduling years ago and it was too aggressive with it. I was doing like 4-hour blocks and I'd start at the beginning and I'm like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I don't know. And then I gave up on it. And then a couple months ago, I actually got back into it and it has really changed. I feel so much better. Now I have 2-hour blocks. It's manageable. I know the things I have a running list. I know the things that I want to tackle in order. I prioritize, that's the first thing. Sit down. What's my priority for these next 2 hours? It was done. And I have a little timer and what goes off.
That's
I'm
right.
done.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really is at least for me, it definitely works. It's definitely a great tool that's helped me a lot. That and changing my Calendly to be have less.
Well, yeah, and I did that. Whatever calendaring app you're using, of course, they all have the ability to decide how you're doing it. I use a different one, but ultimately, I did that a long time ago. And here's the other thing: if somebody sends me their calendar and I see all this free time to book, I'm thinking, okay, dude, you are not managing your time well, or you have so much free time. Are you really any good? Right. So you really have to look. So different days I'm available at different times. I have my own podcast. I only record on Wednesdays and Fridays. Now when I'm on somebody else's podcast like yours, I'm amenable to doing it on a different day of the week because it's not my podcast. I can't make that choice. Right. So, plus, I'd rather just be in my gym clothes all day.
I'm not going to lie.
Just saying.
You take pants most days.
I'll get dialed up when I need to.
I'm so with you on that one. So, Carol, it has been such a great time speaking with you today. So, can you just share, anybody who's listening, how do they get in touch with you for any more information, follow-up questions,
Right.
anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Best way to find me is on my website, verticalelevation.com. You can schedule a call with me. You can fill out our organizational report, to which you'll get a full one-page document back, kind of telling you the yellow, orange, red, and green areas, that the red areas, of course, that are the most critical to your business failing right now. And all those things that we send out. There's, you can find out how to reach me. That's really the best way to find me. And you can read all about what I do in the Chief of Staff Scaffold system, and why you might need a Chief of Staff.
No, that's great. And we'll put a note in the show notes. We'll put a link to your website that people can just click and get to. But Carol, it's been such an enjoyable conversation. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure, Kelley.
If you are listening to this podcast episode and you're thinking, I know I need to understand my numbers in my law firm better, but I'm just not ready for CFO support. That's exactly why I created a program called Profit Strong 90. Now, Profit Strong 90 is a structured 90-day course designed specifically for law firm owners who want financial clarity without the overwhelm. So inside this course, you're going to learn how to understand your profit and loss without feeling intimidated, identify where profit is leaking from your firm, improve cash flow predictability, build financial habits that support long-term growth, and make better decisions using real data instead of gut instincts. Now, this isn't theory. It is practical step-by-step guidance built around how law firms actually operate. If you want to feel more confident looking at your numbers, if you want to stop guessing, and if you want to build a stronger financial foundation for your law firm, I can't make this any better of an offer. It's free. Click the link in the show notes below to join Profit Strong 90. This is where clarity starts for you.